Hi there, Agile friends. I'll come in here just with a quick note to let you know that the Agile Online Summit 2022 is coming soon. To know more, check out bit.ly/AOS2022. That's all one word, all lowercase, bit.ly/AOS2022. Now, stick around to the end of the episode if you want to know more, but for now, on to the show. Hello everybody, welcome to our Wednesday, the Leading Change episode, this week with Shaun Bradshaw. Hey Shaun, welcome back.
Hey Vasco, it's good to be back.
Absolutely. So Shaun, today we find that we focus rather on change, because as Scrum Masters, we are constantly working with change, with things that maybe need to change or things that are changing, and we need to enable the adaptation of the team to that. And as part of that, we want to hear a story from you about a change process that you were involved with. And as you tell us the story of that change, please highlight for us also the steps, the tools, the tricks, the techniques that you used back then that you still use today.
Yeah, so I've been in the Scrum Master role for a number of years. So the story for this particular change is not related to my work as a Scrum Master, but as an enterprise coach. And I happened to be coaching a team that had a Scrum Master. And the big complaint that we got constantly, that I heard about constantly, was we termed swooping. That was a particular VP. It happened across leadership as a whole, but one particular VP would constantly come into the team room and interrupt an individual or a group of individuals on the team and ask them to work on something that was important to a particular customer. It happened all the time. And of course, as a result, either the team just had to pick up the slack for the other people that were pulled off and work even harder to try to meet their commitments, or they just didn't meet their commitments. And so I was working with the Scrum Master on this, and we're trying to decide how best to break that habit from a VP on doing the swooping, because this person thought that what they were doing was okay. And what we came up with was using a drag board. And so the drag board, what we would do is every time leader swooped in, particularly this one, would swoop in, the person that got pulled away from the team would document on a Post-it a brief summary of what they did, like just one sentence, maybe a few words, and roughly how much time, a quarter of a day, half a day, something like that, a day's worth of time, and then post it. At the end of the sprint, we were able to show how much time had been pulled off the team because of this swooping behavior. I joked with the Scrum Master that we could dress up the VP and drag and call it his name drag board, but they didn't want to do that, which I understand of completely
perhaps
not
NSFW there.
But it helped the behavior, because then the VP started to see the impact that he was having on the team and their ability. It seemed to him like there was just a one-off request here and there, and it wasn't until we were able to really show the cumulative result of all the time that was being pulled that it started to click with him as to how it negatively impacted the team.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a couple of lessons here. So the first one is something we talked about yesterday, which is visualizing, right? Like the VP didn't necessarily think he was having that big of an impact on the team, but once you visualize it, you can show here's the impact, right? And we documented everything, and the VP can trust that indeed it had that impact on the team. And the other thing that kind of comes to my mind is this ability to show the team itself what is going on, right? Like one thing is to help the VP understand the impact of their interruptions, but the other thing is to help the team understand the impact of the VP's interruptions. Because they are, the VP was doing what he thought was right? Like helping a customer, right? And then the team was doing what they thought was right, which is helping the VP who was trying to help the customer.
That's
so
right.
Nobody was doing anything wrong, but we do need to anyway reflect on the consequences of the right things that we might still be doing, because that has consequences on, another side of the value chain, if you will, right? Like maybe the product owner is not getting everything they want, and that's causing other customer complaints, which is then causing other interruptions, etc., etc.
Yeah, that's a great way to summarize it.
So when you think about this, like introducing this idea to the VP must not have been easy. So how did you first, once you did the first collection of interruptions, how did you introduce what you had done, and how did you introduce the data to the VP? Because it's not necessarily a given that they are going to be very receptive to that.
In this particular case, it wasn't particularly difficult. The drag board was not, something that was hidden on a system. It was a poster board we put up in the team room, and after a few swoops, we started to be able to point out what was actually happening, so it was very evident to him as well. I would say there may be some instances, not in this case, but there may be some instances where you have to sort of prep the VP for that and have an earlier discussion that this is what we're doing. In this particular instance, we just let the data, the board, do the talking for us.
Yeah, that's a good point, right? Like, because the board is at the end of the day a reflection tool for us, right? We are reflecting reality in a visual way, and then letting people looking at the mirror, i.e. the board, come to their own conclusions. Mm-hmm. And how did the team react? Because sometimes teams are quite reticent to start tracking. Oh, come on, do we now need to track every half an hour interruption?
Yeah, the team was, I would say, mixed. There were some people on the team who felt, as you described, that, it's easier for me to just go do this than to, take the extra few minutes to write this down. There were others who I think, they bought into it because they were disappointed that they were the ones sometimes having to take up the extra work and work a little more to still try to meet the original commitments. So it was a little bit of a mixed bag. And, that's the individual personalities and how they, where they feel their commitment is. Some felt their commitment was more to the team and the team commitments. Others felt like their commitment was to the immediate need that the VP was presenting them.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point for us to be ready, right? Like when we present this to the team, they might not be okay with doing it. And there are certain tips we can do. In fact, I think we have an episode, I'll put the link on the show notes, with Jeff Campbell and another guest, where we talk about a team that did just that. They started documenting all the interruptions and how they did it and how they presented it. And they relate to us a story of also some team members being, they couldn't be bothered, right? Like, why should I do this? Like, what am I going to write like 5 words or one phrase if I can do it in 5 minutes? Like, why should I do that, right? But if you don't do it, then you don't know the impact because you can't see it, right? And we go back to that tip that if you can't see it, you can't manage it. So visualization becomes a very important tool for us to help the team reflect, in that case, reflect on themselves, right? Like, okay, here's the list of interruptions. What does that mean?
Yeah, I will say this. That particular story was, I guess, maybe 6 years ago, and since then, when I go in to coach other teams, that's one of the things I lead with. I actually talk about this a lot when I meet with teams, and what I find is a lot of teams run into the same issue. So I think by actually establishing up front that this is something to be aware of when they're starting their Agile transformation, I'm able to get a little bit more buy-in on the activity. And in some cases, we'll do a drag board. In some cases, we won't. In some cases, we just sort of estimate what we think it's going to be and then track against that estimate up front.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are, as I think that's a good point that you were saying, there are less bureaucratic, less overhead ways of tracking interruptions. For example, you can just write the number of hours you spent on a topic, and put that on a post-it, put it on the board, whether it's virtual or real, it doesn't matter. You could do that. And then at the end, you kind of look at all of those numbers, put them together, and then you know what's the impact in hours, right? You may not even know what all the requests were, but at least you know the hours. But it does require some discipline for us as Scrum Masters to kind of listen in the daily for what are people saying. Is that an interruption, or was that already part of the plan? So it does require some effort and focus on our part to help the team track all of those changes. Thank you for sharing the story, Shaun.
Yeah, it was my pleasure.
Hi there, Agile friends. Thank you for sticking around to know more about this year's Agile Online Summit. The summit will have 4 keynotes and 4 tracks you will not want to miss. The keynotes will touch on critical topics for us, from delivering on time to helping you to focus on sustainability. The 4 tracks are tools, so we'll focus on tools you need to excel at your job, but also your mission. We'll also have a track on sustainability, which is, of course, about people and their sustainable pace, but it's also about how do we bring sustainability to the products and the planet we inhabit. We'll have a 3rd track about happiness, talking about doing what we love and, most crucially, loving what we do. And finally, the 4th track will be live. It will be mostly hands-on sessions to help you roll up your sleeves together with the presenters. Oh, and we will also have a coaching clinic, as we usually do, organized to help you discuss and get inspired to solve the hardest challenges you face at work. This year, we'll have a special emphasis on interaction with your peers, so get your ticket and join the Slack at bit.ly/AOS 2022. As always, we have free tickets for anyone that wants to attend live, and the VIP tickets for those of you who want to keep the videos forever. So check them out at bit.ly/AOS 2022. I'll see you on the conference floor. Leading change is one of the core skills we must acquire, but it is only one of the steps towards our success as Scrum Masters. Tomorrow, on Success Thursday, we will talk about how to define success for the Scrum Master role, we'll cover tips on how to measure your way to that position, and most importantly, how to develop that focus on continuous improvement that is as important for Scrum Masters as it is for teams. See you tomorrow. We really hope you liked our show. And if you did, why not rate this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes? Share this podcast and let other Scrum Masters know about this valuable resource for their work. Remember that sharing is caring.